Last time we were discussing about ethics in business world, why we need good business practices in business. There are multiple reasons. The first one that we discussed, that we want to maintain the goodwill of the company, goodwill of organization. If we are doing something good for the society and we are actually acting in a good way for the society, for the customer, then definitely we actually gain the good repute in the society and we actually increase our customer base. Second main reason is actually to perform consistently. What does it mean? Every time we provide the same service in the same way, the same quality. If we are not performing consistently, then we actually cannot maintain or retain our customer base, our customers. One time we provide good service, the next time service is maybe, it's quite possible either bad, worse or better. So if you are providing the better service, then you are actually increasing your customers. If you are providing kind of a bad service, then you are actually losing the customers. So we need the consistency. Consistency is not only in terms of customer service, it's also in terms of your production. Whatever is your product, it may be a service, it may be any other product, but if your process, how actually you produce your product, if it is consistent, it means that you are actually producing the cost effective ways of your production. You are actually providing cost effective products, and then you are actually gaining the trust of your customer. And obviously then you retain your customer if you are providing the consistent service. Okay. Similarly, just see the consistency in terms of how you treat others, your colleagues, your co-workers, how you are behaving. If you are, it is not only in customer relation, it's not about the production, but it is like the dynamic concept and it have multiple perspectives. Okay. So how you treat your coworker, it is also very important. If we are very good with our customers but we are not treating our coworkers in a good manner, then it's again not the consistent behavior. Okay. And similarly, you see that you actually strive for the best of for your company, for your organization. Again, you perform consistently. One day I am very motivated and I am actually spending a lot of time in the office, and maybe next day or the next week my morale is quite low and again I am actually not doing what was supposed to actually do. Last week I was actually beyond the expectation of my employer, but this week I am not doing what is actually assigned to me, then it is not actually the consistent behavior. Okay. And similarly, what we actually discussed last time, integrity, the consistency is a part of integrity. Whenever you take decision, doesn't matter who is the party, who is the stakeholder, who are actually involved in that decision, you always actually decide based on the merit. You have the consistent principles, consistent rules, that how you actually perform. Okay. So that's why consistency is very important to actually flourish your business. Okay. Okay. Now fostering good business practices, what does it mean? It means whatever is your business practices. You know about ISO standard? You ever heard about ISO? In many advertisements you see ISO certified company. What is that ISO? That organization is actually the, that provide the certification for quality systems. What is the quality system? What is actually the quality in that context? Whatever you do, you actually write it, and whatever is in writing, whatever are your procedures, you actually follow it. That is actually quality. So it means you actually once you actually decide that these are the best practices that should be followed, and then actually you follow it. Not only, yes, I have very good quality policy, I have very good business practices in the documentation, in the books, but in practice I am not doing what is supposed to do. So when we are fostering good business practices, obviously we actually grow. Okay, so what you just see this one, when we are actually performing in a good way, I mean according to the standards, according to the best practices, best business procedures, then we are producing the product that is quality product, and it means you are satisfied customer. If we are not providing the quality product, if it is defective, then we have the different kind of claims, I mean against the warranties, against the, you know, whatever you offer to your customers. So it actually increases your expenditures. Sometimes you actually don't agree to the customer's complaints, but then customers have the option to go to the customer court, and then they have actually, you know, they actually make a decision against your company, against your organization, and you have to pay. You have to pay the fine, that is the, I mean the penalty, big amount of money, large amount of fines many companies actually pay when they are not actually producing or delivering the service or the product what was expected. Do you agree? So the bottom line is, when you have good business practices and you follow it and you are consistent, then obviously your service or your product is good, and you retain your customers and you increase, you actually grow your business. Okay, and it also have another effect, positive effect. When you have, I mean, good business, you are actually good with your employees, then they have high morale, they work, I mean, very hard, and they actually loyal to the organization, to the company, to the business, and they, I mean, turnover rate is quite low. If you are not good in your own, you know, practices within the organization, then turnover is high. Whenever your employees get some good offer, they just quit. Okay, so when you have good business practices, not only your employees but your other stakeholders, it may be your suppliers and other, you know, the government agencies. Those are actually the their actually job is to observe, to monitor whatever the business companies are doing. If you are doing good, I mean, you actually get the trust of those organizations, I mean the government agencies, the government organizations. Okay, and also when you are not doing the good business practices, the bad ethics means the bad results, the bad business, and obviously the bad repute. Okay, now in last lecture we discussed that there were a lot of even if we say a lot, it's okay, but many scandals, many financial scandals of the companies, okay, were reported in the media. So in US they actually then come up with some, you know, the legal protections or the legal instrument that how we can actually bind the companies or the organizations, those who are doing business. How we can effectively monitor those companies, those organizations, that they actually don't don't dodge their customers, don't actually play foul with not only with the customers but with the government. Because if if like this is one type of actually the financial, you know, fraud. My company is not doing well, but in papers I actually report to the government that okay, my business is quite good, we are having like high profits, very good, you know, the picture of my business, but later on that company is like bankrupt. So it's a problem. So that's why actually there is one principle, that is the Latin term respondit superior, and the English translation it let the master responsible. Not only the employee who is actually doing something wrong, but actually the CEO or the CTO or the head of the organization, that should be responsible for any unethical business practice, for the business that was actually achieved, or that was actually, I mean, there are many companies, we know, they actually use unethical ways to get the business, to get the contracts. And if it happens, one possibility is that the employee that was actually the directly involved in that contract, that may be terminated, that may be suspended. But the other approach is like, okay, CTO or the chief executive of the company, who is also responsible for that that deal, for that contract, for that business. Okay, so this is actually a very effective way to make your organizations answerable and to actually force them. They do the business in a in ethical manners, with the good business practices, not with the unethical manners, not with the unethical practices. Okay, so obviously when we have actually we will actually discuss in the next slide that when we say that, okay, the head of the organization is responsible, and we don't want to be actually unethical kind of organization. I mean, the business practices are unethical. Okay, so what to do and how to do, we just discuss it. Here is another point, and that is another reason why we need business, I mean, we need good ethics in the business. We want to avoid the unfavorable publicity. If we are not doing well, if we are not producing good service or product, then actually we are making our repute bad. And if we are making our repute bad, then obvious result will be the loss in business. That is just opposite to the goodwill of the company. If we have the goodwill of the company, we grow. If we have the bad publicity, then obviously we lose. Okay, so we don't want to actually lose our customer or lose our business. That's why we have these actual the business practices, the good business practices, to actually flourish our business. Okay, any question, any query until now? Okay, now the question is how to actually improve corporate ethics. I mean, we say it is good to have good business practices. We say that master should be the responsible. We say we are, I mean, if we are following good business practices, we actually grow. But the $1,000,000 question is how to actually do it. So we definitely need some sort of plan, some good ethic program in which we actually plan for the training and implementation and then monitoring. Okay, monitoring of those business practices that are good for the business, that are based on good ethics. So the characteristics of any successful ethic programs, what are, I mean, the characteristics, what are the main, the factors? Number one, employees willing to seek advice about ethical issues. Whenever we have any situation in which we can actually, take decisions that are maybe unethical decisions. So our organization should have the guide, should have the way to actually consult someone in the organization that what to do, how to do. So that is number one characteristic of any ethical program. It means that you should guide your employees that how to actually act in such kind of situations. Number two, employees feel prepared to handle situations that could lead to misconduct. And so it is again about the training. The first point is to get the advice. The second point is to actually train your employees. They should be trained in a way that they can handle such situations when they can actually, there is a chance to actually indulge in such kind of business deal or the business practice. So training is the key, that you actually train the employees. Without training, you cannot expect that they will actually perform well in every situation. Okay. Number 3, employees are rewarded for ethical behavior. When you don't have any sort of reward system, any reward or punishment, then to do something good or bad becomes useless. So if your employee is working hard and he is like following whatever is actually prescribed in your documents, that you as an ideal employee, you should do in that way. And if employee is doing in the same way and you actually don't reward him, you don't actually encourage her, then he or she can get demotivated to follow those good business practices or to actually take the right decisions. So it is very important to have some kind of reward system. Like in Pakistani public offices, it is unfortunate, but everyone gets like equal kind of treatment. Either someone is doing very good, he is very good in his work, and someone is kind of total liability on the office. He or she is not doing whatever is actually assigned to him, but still both are treated equally. So that's why actually the people who work hard, they get demotivated. So it shouldn't be the case in any organization. Otherwise you cannot actually grow. It means that you have the system that actually demotivate your hard workers. Okay. And definitely we as a Muslim, we have believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we believe in hereafter, and then we say that is the day of judgment, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us based on our good deeds. That's why we do good deeds, and we actually have this belief that these good deeds, doesn't matter we are not actually getting reward of those good deeds in this world, but we will get it in Akhirah. That is our belief. And that actually motivates us. Okay. Employees are not rewarded for success obtained through questionable means. Okay. So it is another important point. If I am earning, or if I am actually getting business for my organization, and that business or that earning is actually through some, the doubtful means. So if my organization is following the ethical business practices, they will not appreciate me. They will ask me how you actually get it. Otherwise, employees will just have, in Pakistan, in many private organizations, they have actually, sales targets for their employees, and they actually force them, you have to do it. It doesn't matter how you do it. So that's why they actually, in many bank employees visit people so frequently that people get irritated. But they have their sales targets, and they want to actually fulfill it. Maybe they get the bonuses or the increments or their salary based on those, if they achieve those targets. Okay. But this is not something good. If someone is not willing to actually, get your service and you are actually irritating him, so it is not a good business practice. Okay. So we should have, there is a case study in this chapter that IBM, in US, the case file on IBM to bribe Chinese official in China to get the business. So the court in US, they actually made the decision against the IBM to pay maybe in millions of dollars just for the bribing Chinese officials in China. So it doesn't matter, a company is registered in US, is doing business in US, but when he is dealing with other customers in other part of the world, still he or she, whatever is the official of that company, needs to be fair in his dealing with the customers, with the other agencies. Okay. Okay, employee feel positive about their company. If we are what I said, if we have reward system, if we treat everyone in a fair manner, then obviously we feel good, and we actually have the loyalty with the organization. If it is not the case, then we just leave whenever we have some good offer for our career or for our job. Okay, appointing corporate ethics officer is again in US and maybe in some other European countries, in developed countries, they actually appoint the dedicated person for this business ethics program. So ethic officer is the responsible to actually plan and develop ethics for, the ethical practices or the ethical guidelines for the business. Okay, so just see, this guy is actually responsible for the vision. He should envision how the organization should be, how it should work, and what should be the ethical program for the organization to actually grow the business, to actually follow the business practices. Okay, and obviously if you are actually taking a person that is on key position of visioning or developing the ethic program for the organization, that guy must be the senior experienced guy with good qualification and obviously the knowledge and the knowledge of law. That is very important. Okay, and then again, not only the developing the code of ethics or the document that actually guide about the ethics in business, it is not enough. The ethic officer should be responsible that how to actually implement it, how to actually effectively create a culture of good business practices in the organization. Okay, ethical standards set by the board of directors. When we have some reasonable size of organization, they have not only the one guy who is the owner of the company or the organization, but they actually have the board of directors, board of governors, board of key people to actually run the business. They have multiple, quite possible from different domains, from different knowledge areas, and they actually then discuss and plan for the organization that how to actually grow. So if you want to actually be a good ethical company, ethical organization, the organization who is actually following the good business practices, then your board of governors in the organization is responsible to actually obviously with the consultation of the chief ethics officer. Okay, that to how to actually come up with the guidelines for your organization and how to actually plan and implement those ethical guidelines or the code of ethics that is developed for your organization. Okay, and when you are actually you just you plan, you suggest something good for your employees, the ethical program, then it is very important that you should be the follower, or with good intention you should actually practice those good business practices, those business procedures. It is not only for your employees that they will actually practice. You should, as a the member of the board, as a director, as a governor, as a key official of the organization, you should practice first. What we discussed last time, in the previous slides, let the master responsible. So if we own it, that ethical program, the code of ethics, then it is actually the message for our subordinates, for our juniors, for our employees, that okay, we own this program, we practice it, and we expect as a board of governors, we expect that our employees will also practice it. Okay? And obviously then they actually create the environment. They actually provide such environment in which they can, their employees can actually practice it. It is not only to say that, okay, you need to practice it, but I have to provide that environment in which you can actually easily practice. Okay, you feel comfortable by practicing those actually the rules. Okay, now what is the code of ethics? Code of ethics is just a formal document which actually highlights your key considerations of ethics, your key ethical issues, and what is actually valuable for you, what you want in your organization, how you actually want your employees to perform. Okay, code of ethics actually guide you in kind of the areas which are like risky areas. Here you see areas of ethical risk. What does it mean? There are always some gray areas in which you are actually doubtful. Either you can do it or you can't do it. So in that case, your code of ethics should guide you that what to do. Like in Islam, there is one quite crystal clear area. The commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to do it, you have to do it. There is some area that is kind of black area that okay, you shouldn't do it. But then there is a gray area between white and black. Here you have you are like confused. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you shouldn't go to the boundaries of that white area. If you go to the boundaries, you may cross those boundaries. समझिए मेरी बात आप कि बड़ी क्लियर अहकामात है अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला के, और कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो कि ममनू हैं, ठीक है, फॉरबिडन है, बट इन दोनों के बीच में एक ऐसा एरिया है कि जब आप बिल्कुल बाउंड्री पे चले जाते हैं, वो अहकामात, वो फॉलोइंग्स जिनको आप ले सकते हैं, कर सकते हैं, तो देयर आर चांसेस कि आप उसको क्या करें, क्रॉस कर जाएं, वो अल्लाह ताला की जो हदूद हैं उसको क्रॉस कर जाएं. तो इसीलिए ये हमारी गाइडेंस है कि हमें उन हदूद, वो जो अल्लाह ताला की गिवन बाउंड्रीज हैं, उससे उसके अंदर आना चाहिए, उनको टच नहीं करना चाहिए. देन क्वाइट पॉसिबल कि हम उससे बाहर निकल जाएं. ठीक है. सो इन द सेम वे there are some areas that are risky. So your training, your education, your ethical program or your code of ethics actually guides you how to deal in those areas. Okay. Offer guidance for employees to recognize and deal with ethical issues. This is again the in connection with the last point. When you have the risky areas where you can actually, you can actually get inclined towards some unethical practice. So if you have training, you have education, then you have better ability to deal with those actually situations. Provide mechanism to report unethical conduct. I am not doing any unethical activity. It is not sufficient. Whenever something unethical is happening in the organization, in the society, as a society member, good member, it's my responsibility, it's my task to actually report it. So when you are in the organization, you see that some co-workers are doing something wrong, something unethical, it's your actually responsibility to report it. Any unethical, any unethical conduct. And then definitely you support your employees, your co-workers, your colleagues, that they actually abide by law. They actually follow the rules. They actually follow the whatever is actually described, whatever is written in the code of ethics. Okay, Sarbanes-Oxley Act is actually passed in US in 2002 when there were many financial scandals of the different business companies. They come up with this idea that okay, whenever the company is actually submitting any financial or the the business information, it should be signed by the head of the organization, that it is accurate, it is according to the actual whatever is the actual information. So in that way, they are actually again enforcing, or like they are implementing, and the phrase that I told you, that the concept, let the master responsible. If you are signing any document, it means you have read it and you understand it and you actually are the responsible for it. Okay, so this act actually make the answerable, or you may say the responsible, the HODs mean the head of the departments, head of the organizations, responsible for the information that they provide to the their Securities and Exchange Commission or companies. Okay, so when we actually don't have the ethical program or code of ethics, then it is very hard actually in the developed world to actually grow in the business and to get the trust of the people and actually get the acknowledgement of the government agencies as well as customers. Okay, so it is very actually important to have, you know, the ethics program, and if we have it, then there is one term that is called continual improvement, continuous improvement. No one can say that I am perfect man, I am a perfect organization, I have the perfect rules of business. So there should be the frequent review of your business practices, your code of ethics, and to actually improve it whenever you feel it. Okay, and definitely whenever there is a breach, it should be identified, it should be reported. Any question? Any query? CFO. CFO means Chief Financial Officer. CEO is Chief Executive Officer. CTO is Chief Technical Officer. These are the terms that are used for the key officials in any organization. Okay. Okay. We may actually think or feel that maybe this code of ethics is quite detailed document, and how we can actually cater the every situation that may occur in the business, that may occur in the real life. But these kind of guidelines are like quite generic. Just see this example. Here we have just 5 statements, and these 5 statements are actually the Intel Code of Conduct, the 5 principles. We just go through one by one. Number 1, Intel conducts business with honesty and integrity. So it is general guideline that whenever we are dealing with others, we must be honest and we deal with integrity. So now this is very general guideline, but it actually at least guides you for a lot of situations. Number 2, Intel follows the letter and spirit of the law. In any case, we are not actually, we are not breaking the law. So it is a very clear message for the employees that, okay, whatever is the situation, you have to abide the law. That is the key point. Number 3, Intel employees treat each other fairly. That is what we actually discussed. We treat our employees, our co-workers, our customers, our all stakeholders equally fair, consistently. And doesn't matter what is the race of our co-workers, what is our belief, what is religion, so it doesn't matter. Intel employees act in the best interest of Intel and avoid conflict of interest. Whenever, being an Intel employee, it is my actually responsibility to work for the betterment of my organization. It's not the way like, okay, I just make deal with some other IT company and I am just providing the information of my company that is, has business value. So I am just providing that information to the competitor of my employer. So it is not the fair dealing. It is not actually the loyalty with your employer, with your organization. So whenever you are dealing, you are doing in the best interest of your company. And number 2 is conflict of interest. Do you know what does it mean? If I am working, I mean, in like, just take this example. I am Intel employee. I am awarding the contract, and on the other side, the party who is involved in this contract is like, okay, my brother's company or my friend's company. Now, it doesn't matter if I am awarding this contract on merit, but because he is my brother or my friend, then it is conflict of interest. Then there may be, I mean, there may be questions like, okay, this guy is the biased. I mean, it's based on personal relationship. It shouldn't be the case. Like we say, okay, if you are the ruler, you are heading the state, you cannot do the business because it is a conflict of interest. Okay, Intel employees protect the company's assets and reputation. Obviously, being an employee of any organization, you should actually protect the assets of your company. Again, information, what I said, information is also the asset for the company. Okay, and if you are actually sharing that information with competitors or with someone who is actually, you know, may take any advantage from that information, then it is actually the breach of your, I mean, contract or your code of conduct within your organization. Okay, and maybe it's a kind of legal breach. Your company, your employer may actually file the case against you in the court. Okay. Any question? No? If you are a good organization, if you are doing good business, you are following good business practices, then you have to conduct the social audit of your organization, of your company. You know what does audit mean? Audit is actually the assessment you do, and normally we do the financial audits. In financial audits, you actually, you know, you go through the statement of your organization, the financial statement. What is coming in, what is going out, and then you actually make, okay, it's okay. In case of social audit, you actually see your company that how good, how beneficial, okay, towards the society. I mean, we discussed last time, you want to gain the goodwill of the company. How you gain the goodwill of your company? You offer your services to the community, to the society. You do some welfare projects for the society, for the community. So social audit is actually to see that what were your goals for the society, for the community, what are you offering for that year, that specific year, and okay, what you did actually, what you delivered. Okay, so social audit is actually to see your social responsibility, I mean, of that specific organization, that how good you actually do it. Okay, and obviously in social audit you plan for the next year. Okay, for the next year, maybe you say as an IT company, you say I will provide lab equipment to maybe 10 schools. You may say that, okay, I will train 100 college students this year as an IT company. And there may be different other examples, like, okay, you say that I have as a responsible organization of the society, I will actually install 5 filter plants, water filter plants in some specific sector of Islamabad. Okay, so you also actually share your social audit with all other stakeholders, mainly with the society, with the community, so that you actually gain their trust. And obviously it actually improves the goodwill of your company. Okay. What is the advantage of actually teaching or educating your employees through some kind of training? What do you say? Yes, please.
They will get to know about the ideal system in which we want them to work there within the organization.
Exactly. They will actually get the understanding what the employer, what the organization actually wants, how they actually want you to behave in different situations. Education, there is no doubt that education actually, gives you the sense of responsibility. It gives you the understanding of the subject, of the concept. Okay, so we don't assume that everyone is actually, has very well understanding of the business practices or the good ethics. Okay, and although we have built-in mechanism of about good and bad ethics, but again we have to train. Okay, like you are here to actually get the training. This education, formal education, is for the purpose of training, to train you for the real life. And this is one part of that training, that what are the ethics and how we can actually practice good, good ethics in the business when you are in your career, when you are passing out as a IT professionals, as a IT graduates. Okay, what are actually the the expectations from you? Okay, there are different actually possibilities that how you actually teach, how you educate your employees. Okay, if you are big organization, definitely you need some sort of very thorough planning. If you are small organization, then it is like maybe a few hours workshop that you actually can arrange in a short time with a short notice. Okay, but big organizations, large organizations, they actually plan it very well. If there is an organization which is operating in multiple countries, they have multiple remote sites, they have thousands of employees, then it is obviously a challenging task how to plan it. Okay, so when we are actually educating our employees, what are the possibilities? One is actually to teach what is written in the book. What are the good ethics? And number two is actually to create such kind of scenarios in which they can actually learn or practice that when they have such kind of situation, how to deal it. Okay, and there is another actually possibility to teach them, and that is the real case studies, the old case studies, the old, you may say, the experiences of the organization. Not only your organization, it may be from any other organizations. And then you can actually show your employees that how to deal in such kind of situation. Okay, and then obviously what we said, that you are performing good, it is not enough. You actually have to be vigilant about your environment, your surrounding, what is going on around you. So if you see any unethical business practice, you need to report it. And when you report it, there is some kind of fear that maybe it can actually, not good for your career, for your service within the organization. So it is actually the task of your management within the organization that they actually create such environment that you don't feel any kind of fear when you are reporting any unethical behavior or unethical conduct. Okay, and definitely it is good to actually learn how effectively you can report such kind of incidents. Okay, in coming days we will discuss about whistleblowing, that when there is some kind of unethical conduct, how to report it, what are the guidelines actually to report such kind of incidents. Okay, and definitely we want assurance from our employer, from our management, that there will be no retaliation. There will, what I said, that there will be no fear of you losing any job or any other kind of insecurity that you feel when you are reporting such conduct. We have appraisals in organizations, and periodic appraisals of employees. Every year you feel some sort of specific performer, that is called annual appraisal. Okay, in some other organization it may be like every 6 months, but normally in Pakistan it's annual appraisal form. So when you actually fill in that appraisal form. Mostly there is no kind of ethical assessment in that appraisal form. Here is actually the guideline. Okay, here is a discussion that even in US, okay, most of the organizations have no consideration for the ethics in employees appraisal. Okay, so ethical criteria should be included in appraisal form, that how he or she is behaving, how good he or she is in the organization. Okay, so what kind of actually the qualities or the key points that can be discussed, that can be assessed. Number one, treating others fairly and with respect. So there should be some kind of marks, some grades, some subjective, not subjective actually, subjective should be converted into the objective assessment. Okay, like if I say good, very good, it should be still marked with 1, 2, 3, 4, so that at the end I can calculate, okay, how much marks I get. Okay, so our treatment with other is one possible criterion. Number two, operating effectively in a multicultural environment. If you are multinational organization, you are multicultural, you have multicultural environment, how you are dealing with others, that is very important. Okay, accepting personal accountability. And this multicultural environment is not only mean for Pakistan. I mean not only in Pakistan, but in all, in the rest of the world. Even in US they have like such kind of discrimination, black versus white. So that's why it's important that how you are actually working in that multicultural environment. Number three, accepting personal accountability. You feel yourself accountable. If whatever you do, you must be accountable for that. It should be the case. Number four, continually developing themselves and others. I am good and I want to improve myself. What I said, continuous improvement, and I should support others to actually how they improve themselves. Okay, so it is very important. Another criterion is like how you actually operate, how you deal in your business matters, in your job, and how you actually deal with others. Okay, these are just the suggestions. These are such the these are only the guidelines that you can actually include in the appraisal form to actually evaluate the ethics. Okay, ethics of any employee. Okay, how we create the ethical work environment? Again, if the seniors, if the top management is sincere, if the top management is willing to actually practice and observe whatever is written in your code of conduct, then it is very easy and it is convenient for the rest of employees to actually practice it. If the top management is not actually doing what they should do, then the lower staff is not actually willing to obey or to follow the guidelines. Okay, so here when your employee is actually needs some kind of guidance, then there should be knowledgeable persons available to guide him. It may be the manager, it may be your ethic officers, or it may be some other senior colleague. They can actually guide about the good practices that needs to be actually the follow. Okay, and obviously if you have the legal or the internal audit department, they can also be consulted. Okay. Okay, this is just a sample checklist that if you want to create the ethical work environment, you may have this kind of checklist, and then you can actually assess the overall environment of your organization. Just take this example, that do employees know how and to whom to report any infractions of the code of ethics, what we discussed. reporting mechanism. There should be some reporting mechanism when there is some unethical, conduct or unethical kind of incident. Okay. Do senior managers set an example by communicating the code of ethics and using it in their own decision making? It shouldn't be like the rules just for the juniors, for the subordinates, no rule for the seniors. Like this is kind of a joke. Number one, boss is always right. Number two, if you feel other way, just consult rule number one. So this is, if this is a situation, then obviously you have no motivation to follow. So there are different other kind of questions that can be used to actually assess your office environment, your office or organization culture or environment, how good it is. Okay, now coming to the decision making process. When you are dealing with different people, you have different kind of situations in which you need to take decisions. Okay, and decision is like a multi-step process. Number one is to develop problem statement. Then you just discuss and see the alternatives. Once you have alternative, then you evaluate it. Okay, which one is the best one, and then you actually implement. And once you implement, then you actually evaluate it, and then maybe you again revisit the problem, or your task is done. Okay, so we discuss one by one. Develop a problem statement. It is very important. At first place, you have to actually understand the situation you have, and you think either it is real problem or it is just your thinking. It is very important. Even in real life, sometimes we feel that, oh, I am in a trouble, I am in a problem. But really, if you are cool and you rethink and you just revisit, then you feel that it is not the case. It is not the trouble. You know that in problem is also considered as an opportunity. If there is a problem, you say it is a business opportunity. Anyways, when you want to take decision, first of all you have to identify your problem. Okay, and the answer that you may question, the question that you can answer, you need to answer when you are actually trying to understand the problem, like what causes people to think there is a problem, who is directly affected, who are the stakeholders, those are affected with that problem. Okay, so like how often does it occur? If its frequency is very rare, then maybe it's a kind of useless activity to actually address it. But it is a frequent problem, then it is very important for your organization to actually address it. Okay, so identification of problem is very important, is a critical step. Once, okay, just see the example of a good problem statement. I'm just reading it. Our product supply organization is continually running out of stock of finished products, creating an out of stock situation on over 15% of our customer orders, resulting in over $300,000 in lost sales per month. So here you have very specific information that what is the problem, why you are saying it problem, why it is actually causing disturbance. Now just see another example that is actually the kind of bad example. We need to implement a new inventory control system. In fact, it is not a problem. You are proposing a solution. You have to identify the problem, why you need actually a new system. And then we have a problem with finished product inventory. Again, it is very generic problem. There may be multiple reasons of this, the finished inventory, product inventory. So when you are actually identifying your problem, you should be specific as much as possible. And at first place you need to decide either it's a problem, a real problem, or it's just your thinking, your imagination that it's a problem. Okay, number 2 is you need to actually come up with solutions, and not only single solution but alternate solutions, alternatives. Okay, how you can come up with alternate solutions? You need to brainstorm. When you have brainstorming session within organization, you actually come up with different ideas, different solutions. Then you need to actually evaluate or assess those solutions, those alternates on the merits, on different factors, based on different factors. Maybe price is the key factor for you. Then you will actually see those alternatives based on that price. The solution, I mean the solution that you are proposing, what is the price of that solution? Or maybe the time is your key constraint. Then you will actually see your alternates based on the time. And there may be multiple factors. You assign some kind of weights to those factors and then decide which one is actually the good solution. Okay, but here our discussion is like, whenever we are actually selecting the alternate, it must be ethical. It must be ethical, and obviously it should be within legal framework. We cannot actually come up with a solution that is illegal. Okay, it doesn't matter how small or large organization is, okay, how severe the problem is, how good the solution is, but you always have to propose the solution which is actually within the legal boundaries. Okay, and be consistent with policies and code of ethics, whatever your policies are within your organization. Okay, or maybe there are some outside policies like government policies. You need to follow those policies. You need to follow your code of ethics. Okay, take into account impact on others. Obviously, when we are saying we will discuss and evaluate the alternates, then you have to think about your all other stakeholders, not only the stakeholders, about the environment, about the competitors, about the organization itself, that how this solution is going to affect. Okay, provide a good solution to a problem. Obviously, your choice should be a good solution. Okay, not just a solution for the sake of solution. It should be good. When you are taking the decision, when you are taking a solution, when you are taking the alternate, okay, that is based on some ethical approach. Here you have few ethical approaches that can be considered, and we will discuss in detail in coming lectures those ethical approaches. Here we just briefly discuss virtue ethics approach. Virtue ethics approach is based on virtues, what you feel good, your moral values. Okay, and then your decision is based on your moral values. I mean, behind the scene, okay, in your mind, in your subconsciousness, when you are taking the decision, you are basing on your virtues. Okay, it has its own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, number 2 is utilitarian approach. Your decision is based on utilitarian approach. It means what is the maximum benefit or the utility of the solution. You go for the solution which has the maximum advantage. Okay, the maximum utility for others. Again, it sets on merits and demerits. Number 3 is fairness approach. You treat others equally. You treat others in a fair manner. So when you are taking a decision, behind that decision, your approach is fairness approach. Number 4 is common good approach. You feel in terms of community. You want to serve the community. You actually want to take the decision which is good for all, for the community, for everyone. So these are different approaches, okay, that can be behind your decision. Okay, when you are taking alternates, when you are taking decisions, you have some sort of different approach. Okay, implement the decision and evaluate the results. Once we decide this is the best solution, okay, the best alternate, then we need to actually implement it, okay. And when we implement, we consider that the implementation should be effective, it should be efficient, it should be within the time limits, okay. And one important consideration is actually the communication to the other people, to other stakeholders. Whatever is the decision, whatever is your implementation, it should be well communicated, okay. If you are not actually communicating, then you actually create the gap between you and other stakeholders, so it's not good. And then when you are actually implementing it, okay, the transition from one stage to other stage, okay, whatever you are actually planning to actually fix that problem, it should be smooth. I mean, the transition, that implementation, the execution of that alternate should be smooth, it should be pain free, or it should create the minimum inconvenience, okay. And once you actually implement, then you have to evaluate, you have to assess it. How successful was your decision? How successful was your implementation? Okay, how good it was. If it was perfectly fine, then it means you are successful. I mean, you have done your job. But if it was not up to the mark, it was not like what you intended, so you need to again revisit your problem. You again need to actually revisit your strategy. Okay, so it is kind of continual cycle. You complete it and then you evaluate it. If a problem is still there, you actually need to again come up with some other alternate, with some other strategy. Okay. Okay, ethics in information technology. Why we need actually ethical practices or ethics in IT, in information technology? Here you see the different examples are the different issues, possible issues, like spam emails, like violation of copyright material, like hacking activities, lot of viruses, okay, lot of privacy issues. So these are all the issues that are actually, you know, associated with the technology, with the IT. So if we are IT professional, we must be aware, we must be knowledgeable about the ethical considerations, okay, and what is our job being an IT professional, and how we can actually tackle the situations that can actually lead towards unethical decisions, okay. So we need ethics, good business practices as an IT professional, okay, so that when we are doing our job, whatever it is, okay, either we are actually dealing with the data, some sort of, okay, or we are just a network administrator, or we are database administrator, whatever is our job, we have such kind of situations in which we need to actually follow the good ethics, okay. So if we talk about the general public is not very well, you know, informed, very knowledgeable about the IT and the issues, I mean ethical issues associated with the IT, okay. Like many people who use social media, they are unaware of the privacy problems, and then they actually share their private data on the public platforms, and later on they actually realize it, okay. So it is our responsibility to actually deal with such kind of situations in a fair manner, in a ethical way, okay. So the goal of this course is actually to prepare ourselves as an IT graduate, as an IT student, that how we are going to deal with such kind of situations when we are in actually practical life, okay. So throughout the course we will actually discussing ethics in the context of IT, okay. That's all for today.